It's time for the chaos to cease.
Time to open yourself to peace.
From the hours you've put in.
To the next shift you begin.
From the endless pursuit of release.
That finds the worst unleashed.
Transform the ugly into a win.
Get to know your shield within.
Welcome, everyone. Episode 5. Man.
Awesome.
Count their episodes on one hand.
That's right. I wonder what the hand was for.
Yeah, it was a slap if you're watching local news here lately. And then national news. I mean, we're not going to get down that rabbit hole because I'm a conspiracy theorist. Welcome to the Shield Within. I'm your host, Marc the Cop, and my esteemed colleague,
Dr. David. And Unreal Dr. David.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not fucking with you. We just call him that because it's a good, catchy name.
Right.
So this episode, as the other four, is sponsored by lessonslearnedcoaching.com. When life gets to be a little bit too much, give Dr. David a call. He has a great way of putting your deck of cards back in. We're also on Facebook. So if you want to go to Facebook, / The Shield Within, I always try and have something inspirational up there. I post our new episodes. We try to release them on the 1st and the 15th of every month, but we tend to get them in a little early. So come back and check us out. Drop us a comment. Like and share our stuff, please. That means a lot. That gets our algorithm out there and gets us in front of more people, the more you like and share. Also, our website, theshieldwithin.com, theshieldwithin.com. And if you don't remember what lessonslearnedcoaching.com was, hit the coaching button. That'll take you directly to David, and he'll get you on his schedule. And that's a lot of good reviews. You said that after last episode, you've had the floodgates open, correct?
Right. Lots of folks from the mental health community that I've shared it with were very, very happy and shared a lot of real positive feedback. And I know they're sharing it with clients and other people in their lives as well.
Great.
Parents, family, that kind of thing. I got a really nice phone call from another law enforcement individual.
Really?
From State Highway Patrol. We started work last Monday, and I think it went very, very well.
Always. I can tell you all from personal experience. How long did we work together? 8 years?
Let's see. 10 to 015, 5 years.
Okay, 5 years.
Yeah. Not long enough, It's why we have to do this. So,
right, and we created a really good relationship. I mean, we didn't talk for a while when you retired. I mean, we kept in touch. I mean, every once in a while, I'd send you a text at 3 o'clock in the morning. Hey, man, how you doing? Hey, poor fucker. But we stayed in touch over the years, and that day we had lunch.
Right.
Just kind of got the whole ball rolling. When I went down to Florida and we met there in Clearwater. On the beach in the crab shack.
Yeah, that was a great day.
So last week we're with you, episode 4. We were talking about my beginning my journey with EMDR.
Right.
And boy, I was just listening to it here before the show because believe it or not, I finally did some show prep instead of coming in here and winging this fucking thing like I've done for 3 episodes. But yeah, what a trip down memory lane. And when you're living the trauma and that was just so raw with Louie.
Yes.
And with my mother passing, but today it still hurts. Just so the listeners know, it still does hurt, but it's not overwhelming. It doesn't shut you the fuck down. Now, I've since had some good stuff since then that shuts me the fuck down, and that's one thing we're still working on and healing with. But the beauty of EMDR is that you can do it for literally everything.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Through this latest bout with me, I had anger issues.
Mm-hmm. Very
fucking angry. Fucking hated people. Mm-hmm. And I was stuck.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I'm just like, what is going on? Why am I stuck? And so I went and saw Molly Hall, and she's like, just do EMDR on it. I'm like, are you fucking serious? Yeah. It's that simple? Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, All right, we'll do that then. So my next session with Jerry, then that's what we did. It's kind of like pulling straws out of the straw bale.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah, let's do this one. So we'd set the session up and go from there.
Very good. Very, very good. That fits in really well with how EMDR works and how your profession works.
Okay, yeah.
It's one of the things I wanted to work on today was one of the really important parts to me of learning about the lives of first responders is a phrase, again, I'm going to point to that you use that I like a lot, cumulative trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's no small thing at all that once something happens, like let's say one of the individuals I worked with several years ago had been involved in a shooting and killed a man.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Left a big, difficult part of him raw and just hurting. So we took care of that, and it worked out really, really well. But his life as a police officer meant that more of that kind of thing was coming.
Oh, wow.
And so...
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's like a fireman, an EMT, an ER nurse, policeman. Your trauma isn't a one-time event. It's more like a lifestyle.
Yeah. I read a statistic that the average human in their lifetime, maybe one, maybe two, a public servant, a police officer, a firefighter has 800 that we're carrying around with.
Massive difference.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I know people that, one friend of mine, her father, and I knew him, great, great dude, and he passed away, and it just flipped her fucking world upside down.
Yes.
And
exactly.
She's never recovered from it.
Right.
And I don't know if they ever went to therapy or not, but that's one thing. And I'm thinking, yeah, 800, easy, over 30 years. Yeah. I've endured 800 of those.
And I would suspect, honestly, that might even be low.
Oh, yes.
Because there's so many things that get triggered by some of the other events. It's like you have one event and that triggers 10 others. It's like the other 10 are happening right now. So it's more like 11 things are happening, even though you just experienced one.
Right.
It just keeps piling up, and it starts affecting everything. So the triggers become everywhere. And I just kept thinking, man, it's almost like, I read an article a couple of weeks ago about a policeman who has his own therapist and his own full-time, it said, I don't know what that means, mental health coach.
Okay. So so a lot similar to what I'm doing. I work with Jerry full-time, and I see Molly when I need a specialist. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that. Good work.
And there's, I think it's in folks with your jobs, man. It's like, it's just going to keep happening. So once you get somebody that you're really connected with and you're working and you're getting stuff done, don't say goodbye to that person.
No.
Schedule like you and I did. I mean, after we did all that work, we scheduled once a month. We had a great time just staying on top of shit, just like what's going on with this part of your life, because I know EMDR affected every part of you.
Oh, yeah.
And just staying on top of that.
You were able to keep the cards in order. I mean, they would get a little messy on the table, but you were just putting them back in a nice little neat rectangle. Here you go, send me back out the door. And then the beauty of it is I would call you up and I said, can I come in? And you're like, oh, sure. And you would say, yeah, I can either, if I get a cancellation, how flexible are you? And sometimes we would step back up to twice a month.
Right, exactly.
And then if shit really got fucked up, we go once a week.
Right. And that's the kind of relationship you want with your therapist. When you find somebody that you're really connecting with, you're getting stuff done with, keep with them.
Yeah.
Even if that's once a quarter or once every 6 months, you're going to have more shit to deal with. It's a guarantee.
But, then you left me.
I know. I abandoned you mid-stroke, bro. I know.
Guys got abandonment issues, and you're like, man, I'm retiring. I'm like, well, you motherfucker.
Yeah.
What am I going to do?
Send you to another therapist for all this work, bro.
Well, but see, and that's what gave me anxiety. I'm like, Jesus, before I found you, I had seen, 3 or 4 therapists, and it just walked in the door. I should just try and walked out because there was no energy there. It just didn't fucking click, I'm like, don't like you. But then, I'm thinking, well, okay. So God connected me with you.
Right.
And you gave me a wonderful referral to Jerry Kanapke.
Mm-hmm.
You know, him and I clicked as soon as I walked in the door, just clicked. And,
Awesome.
you know,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, yeah, this could be a good fit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's, you know, you can't compare apples to oranges or apples to a tire. You know, you guys are two different men. You have two different ways, but you were able to help me in ways positive, all positive. You know, it's just, but Jerry took me to another realm. It's just like we got to the same place. You just took me down a different path than what he did. And it was all good. And, you know, so you just need to have that confidence in your therapist.
Absolutely. Once that intimacy is developed, and again, you want to get shit done.
Yeah.
You don't.
Yeah.
He's a nice guy. That's not enough. You want to have a nice guy,
Right?
who gets you somewhere. And
Yeah, because you know, and some people get frustrated and just quit, but they don't have the wherewithal. You know, and I just happened into Molly Hall by happenstance, and when I got done with her, I'm like, Jesus, this woman. Yeah, she knows her shit.
Wow.
So then, you know, and that's when I'm like, you know, we're Cherry and I's working, and I'm like, this just isn't. I just can't get. And he told me, Mark, I don't feel that I'm serving you as your therapist. I'm frustrated because I can't get you through this. And I said, don't get mad, but I'm going to go see Molly, and Molly's damn expensive, but you have to consider what's more important. Because I know where I get untreated. It's ugly. Yeah. And we're going to spend the money.
Yeah.
We'll find the money. I'll go get another fucking job, but we'll get there.
Yeah. There's almost a kind of desperation in it.
Oh, yeah.
You just want it so bad. You want to feel better so much.
Oh, yeah.
So tired of the same shit over and over and over again.
Yeah, being stuck is terrible. So what do we got today?
So I'm wondering, because this all blends to me.
Okay.
You have a traumatic experience like Louis. You have treatment. It's very successful. You feel better. Sexually, did it change you? Going through the trauma like that and having it come through the other side, did it change?
Okay. Keep going. I want to be sure I understand what you're asking me.
Like I'm thinking a lot of the folks that we both know in the field of first responders have patterns of behavior that involve infidelity.
Correct.
And
I'm one of them. Is that where you're going with this?
Do tell. And it's like, I know that in the course of time that we worked together, your sexual behavior changed. You became much more faithful as opposed to infidelity. You and Susan got together during that period of time.
Correct.
And it changed the way you related to her in your marriage. I'm wondering what other impacts the EMDR had, like sexually, like parenting, like faith, like did you go into work and look at your coworkers differently after EMDR?
Okay, so you're talking about, did it intensify?
Or fade away or alter in some way? Did you start to look at, like, for example, how was it you and Susan got back together?
After 2008?
Yeah, after when we first met, you were separated.
Correct.
And during our time together, you got back together.
Correct.
How'd that happen?
It was a matter of, I have to say, obligation. Because my daughter stood in my kitchen, and you know, our financial situation was going to shit.
Okay.
You know, because we were paying rent at other places.
Right.
And I promised my daughter, Jen, this college career, and she did everything she was told to do.
Right.
She was given goals and objectives, and she did it. And I call it the "But Daddy, you promise" talk. And she, you know, the girls, you know, she had 3.5 grade point average. You know, she saved her money. She was working, and
right.
You know, I'm like, you want to go to fucking California? You're going to have to bring the fucking A game, okay? So, yeah, she stood there in my kitchen, and just crushed me emotionally.
Wow.
Because I was letting her down because of my selfishness of maintaining this other relationship, and that other relationship wasn't. It was nothing. I mean, it was nothing. So I said, "Yeah, you're right. So it's time to get this back together." So her and I talked, and we started going to counseling. I stayed on with you, and we did a couple sessions. And you've said right up front, I'm not a couples therapist.
Right.
You probably want to go find one. So we did, and then I kept working, and we just put the marriage back together. And there was it wasn't easy. Whenever you break that trust, you have to build that back. And
right.
You have to be absolutely transparent. You have to be absolutely honest about everything. Did I start caring more about? Okay, so everyone's like, what about the sex? We didn't talk about the sex. I mean, was it after EMDR? What we talked about in the last show is how you're dull. Everything's gray. Everything's like eating cold mashed potatoes. Just it's like blech. But yeah, your senses are heightened. So as I remember, yes, things were better. But yes, but no.
Okay.
Because we still had a bunch of mental trauma she had to get over with me. So I'm going to have to say no on that.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I think all of that makes sense. EMDR wakes up your senses.
Mm-hmm.
EMDR wakes up your emotions, as you talked so well about last time. EMDR makes you look at your relationships with people from a different frame of reference.
Yeah.
Because you're looking at yourself from a different frame of reference.
Yes.
So your relationship with your wife, yes, there was a lot of work to do, but it changed course after EMDR.
Yeah. I mean, we were different. I mean, more mature. Yeah.
Well put.
Kind of like, poor girl. I put that poor woman through all kinds of fucking trauma. But it got down to she fooled me once, shame on me, fool me twice. Or shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me.
Right.
So, we just had to establish that dialogue and, be sure that Jen was able to reach her goals in life. And it was absolutely the right decision. It's get the family raised and take care of business. So, yes, I did start caring about my people more, and I got more involved with them. And we were kind of, and, I went through a couple of crews. My crews started changing. I got a new crew about every 12 months.
Okay.
And one of my first crews was my soon-to-be relief sergeant, Nick, and then another guy named Tony, another guy named Jimmy. And we kicked ass. We just what a great mesh of human beings that we worked with. And I thought, man, if I could keep this crew, I'm in heaven. But Nick wanted to get promoted, so I mentored him through the promotional process. He ended up being successful. And then, of course, we didn't have an FTO program for the sergeants.
Okay.
So he ended up staying on my crew for another 2 weeks. So he ran the crew. I showed him how to sign in my computer. He did everything. And I told the crew, no, he's in charge, not me. So then he went to his own shift. So we had a whole big change of personnel. Probably my funnest and favorite crew was Jimmy, Dan, and Kelly. We got in, and that's when I had my second traumatic event. I was with that crew and we'll save that for another day. But I did get more involved with my crew. I was more conscientious of doing things. Carol, my youngest, was playing select softball. Because my parents never did shit with me, and they never came to my games and watch you sit the bench. They thought it was a joke, but it was really hurtful for me. It's like, no, motherfucker, I'm actually playing.
Yeah.
But don't bother, just go to work. That was my father's mantra. I can't do that stuff. I gotta come to work. Well, then you go work and go enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
But so with that attitude was that, I want to make memories for my kids. So, we just took them to Florida, took them on vacation once a year, the best we could. but I always tried to go to, because, the girls were all in band, so we go to football games on Friday night, Carol did travel softball, so we traveled all over the Midwest here doing softball games. So, and I enjoy baseball. So, but things were different. Things were more, you appreciate them more.
Beautifully
You really do.
Beautifully
you appreciate everything more.
Now, to turn the coin around, do you think other people in your life saw you differently?
Oh, yeah.
What do you think? What happened there?
They noticed the subtle changes. You talked about going to church, and that was the biggest thing. Whatever was, because if you listen to my other show, which we had you on,
the Atlas podcast,
and hopefully, our episode drops next week. The Dr. David show on the Atlas podcast. So Facebook / the Atlas podcast or theatlaspodcast.com. Totally lost my train of thought. Bring me back on track.
How did other people see
Other
you?
people. Okay, so going to church. That they noticed that, if you listen to me on that show, I have a very raw, rude, fart and booger joke sense of humor, So my humor on there is so they're like, this rude motherfucker goes to church. Seriously. But I am a very religious man.
Yeah, I know.
I don't wear it out there on my sleeve. I'm not slapping you over the head with the Bible. I don't act like to you that I walk with God, so therefore I'm better than you. And I just don't do that because I know I'm a fucking sinner. I'm a miserable fucking sinner. That's why I go to church every week. I go to confession. I ask God for forgiveness because I just keep trying to be a better dude, man.
Yeah.
And that's the basis, I think, of any religion is trying to be a better person.
Yes.
A lot of people like to mock Catholicism. I'm a Freemason. They mock that too. How can you be a Catholic and a Freemason? Well,
my brain.
If you got to ask, I'm not going to answer. Right.
I can actually handle two things at the same time.
Yeah, and chew bubble gum. But I don't volunteer a lot at my church. That's kind of my theory. I'm going to. It's not that I'm not going to, but I'm going to. But when I was in public safety for so many years, I thought, and I was a former sitting councilman for the village of Covington. I did 2.5 terms there. I worked in one community and served another, and the whole time I was on council in Covington, I donated my salary there as a councilman. I didn't keep a dime of it, so everything I did there was just for pure love of my little village. And so I tell them I was stupid enough to serve because we were busy all the time. I mean, I would work, and then we had council meetings and we had committee meetings, and so I was a busy dude. So when my time to go to church was my time. That's my time with God. I don't want to be an usher. I'm not going to volunteer at the fish fry. I'm not going to sell lottery tickets or raffle tickets at the festival.
Right.
That's not my thing. I give you money, and I did. I gave them my salary from council. This is just my time. I paid $1,200 a year to go sit in the corner for an hour, four Sundays a month.
Right. Season ticket, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of the way I saw it. But, it's not that I don't. And then, like with my lodge, you're just getting into things. If you become a volunteer, a lot of volunteerism, you can work as much as you want for free, and people will let you do it.
Right, absolutely.
So, it's finding that balance and doing things for me.
Right. I love how all this works, that before you were a man of faith before EMDR, but you became a man of deeper faith after EMDR.
Oh, yes.
You were a man who loved your children before EMDR, but you began to appreciate their input even more after EMDR.
Oh, absolutely.
Your work was different. Your senses were different. Your emotions were different. All that changed.
I became more empathetic at work.
Great
From fuck you motherfuckers to, hey, man, do we really got to do this?
Yeah.
Or I tell you what are you doing at, a juvenile, 17-year-old?
Yeah.
It's 15, 20 minutes past curfew. And if it's just me, because, see, I'm going to be a hypocrite because I told my crew, fucking write every one of them. We don't get paid not to, and they expect it.
Right.
you know.
Right.
And I tolerated mornings, but 2:00 in the morning, no, every one of you motherfuckers are getting a curfew ticket. But but the kids appreciated that.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Get your ass home.
Right.
Call your mother. Why am I calling my mother? Because I want to talk to her. Because I'm going to tell her your little ass is out, and I'm being nice to you, and I'm going to send you home without a ticket. But she's going to be responsible for you.
Yeah. Congratulations.
I had a girl one night that, and mom thought curfew was 1 a.m.
Okay.
So mom told her, you can be out till 1. No, ma'am, it's 11 o'clock during the week. You missed a one. So, and because of that, I said, okay, I'll believe you. Go home. Don't do it again.
Right.
Get on with your bad self. I was a lot more empathetic, gave a lot more breaks. Before it was like, hard charge, paper fuck, everybody,
I love it. Now, on the other side of the EMDR, as life was better, but you're still work to do, like you said, in your marriage and so forth. Did you find yourself kind of like monitoring yourself, like keeping kind of track of one or two things? It's just like, man, I gotta keep my finger on that. I gotta know how that's working for me.
Oh, absolutely.
What did you find inside yourself that you ended up monitoring, so to speak?
Influence and limiting myself, and that's why I went back to midnights, because everyone more dead bodies are on day shift.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I never thought of it that way.
They get up in the morning, they try to take a shit to feel better, and they induce the heart attack, fall off the shitter.
Wow.
Yeah. So the majority of our dead bodies are in the morning, or they die overnight, and their healthcare worker goes to check on them in the morning.
They're gone.
They're gone. Same thing out at the rest homes. Majority, and it's funny because they all die in the morning between like 5 and 10 a.m.
Wow.
Occasionally we would get heart attacks out at, we have 2 large rest homes, senior care, whatever the fuck you want to call them.
Right?
Yeah, they're kind of hybrid. They have their own independent living. Then they just, as they decline, they just move them inside.
Right.
So we have one on the north end of the city, one on the south end of the city, and the one on the north end of the city is older, so we have a lot more deaths up there.
Okay.
And a lot more shit show CPRs, but we'll get them at night. But the deaths weren't as frequent.
Okay.
On midnight shift as they are during the day. But towards the last 3 years, Jesus, another fucking dead one. But of course, I had the double fatal motorcycle crash. That fucked me up. I mean, that fucked me up hard. Because this woman just ran the fucking red light. She hit that fucking bike like it was her goddamn job, man. And our squad was clearing, one of these, I call it a fucking Band-Aid run down here in one of these, because the facilities don't have their own medical transport.
Okay.
Well, these people are on Medicare.
Okay.
Medicare pays a fucking ambulance ride, so they just call local EMS.
Right.
Yeah, colostomy bag's full, so we're going to take her up there. Slightly minimal, elevated heart rate. Send her up to the hospital. So they pack this woman up on a gurney and drag her ass up there. Call the family, and it's a shit show. If they just had their own medical transport, they could save it all, but they don't want to spend the money on it.
Right.
Anyway, get off that tangent. So they were on their way north and saw the crash. So they immediately got on the radio and said, send me another medic out here. We have two major traumas, so we landed care flight and blah, blah, blah. But we put 2 or 3 tourniquets on that woman. She was fighting to stay alive. But the old man, he
didn't make it.
No, the bike went one way. It's on the corner of 25A. There's a car lot, and 571. There's a car lot right there. They were going northbound. The woman hit them going westbound. The bike went north. No, they went north. The bike went west. Yeah. So the bike was at one entrance of the car lot. They were at the other. And he was just laying there on the ground looking up. Just like, I'm like, what's wrong with this guy? We obviously no pulse, no breathing. And when we picked him up, the whole back of his head was gone. His brain stayed there in the, yeah.
Oh.
And I'd been through that intersection hundreds of time on my bike.
Yes.
bikes because I've had a few.
Yes. My God.
Yes,
That.
it was just a beautiful fall Indian summer afternoon. Gorgeous day.
Yeah. And so I love this, Mark. The thing that you had to really kind of like keep your eye on was how you were responding to this one particular kind of challenge. And it kept happening.
And I know what my trigger is.
Exactly. Is that what led you to Jerry?
Absolutely.
And this was in 17?
It was shortly after we stopped.
Oh, in 15.
Yeah, it was 2015.
Wow.
Like, you left in what, February? Because I remember it was
March,
cold out.
May.
Yeah,
May. Look, we had our last appointment in April.
yeah, because I remember it was cool out. It was chilly. It was, the leaves weren't out, and I remember being at your home in Pequot. But it wasn't 30 days.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it wasn't, it may have been 60 days. That by the time we played phone tag and hey, I'm booked up, and he's super, super fucking busy.
Right.
I mean, every therapist right now is, but he's trying to retire.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I was going to try and get in and see him this week, and he's like, I can come in on Friday. I'm like, no, you're taking the day off. I'm not coming in. I'm fine. Just I'll see you next week.
Right. I want to see you fresh, not stale.
Yeah. Well, but he's Jerry's up there in years, and he's just looking to step back. But there's so many people in need. I mean, he's like, I'm doing this full time again.
Right. Exactly. and I've heard that from a number of other colleagues as well. The demand is unprecedented.
Yeah.
And the need is unprecedented.
Yeah.
And there's as many hours to fill. There's clients to fill them, and more.
Yes, exactly.
So you hit it off with Jerry really, really well, and started to work on that set of incidents with the dead body, I would imagine.
Well, you presented it very well. Okay, so we got Louie in the rearview mirror. We got my mother in the rearview mirror. Well, now we got all this other shit ahead of us, and that's why I specifically asked for an EMDR therapist.
Right.
And you went through and found Jerry and saw that Jerry did EMDR. Jerry does it just slightly different.
Right.
He uses the light versus the tapping, which is just as good. You need to create you have a maintenance program for your car. You're going to take it in every 5 months or 6 months or 5,000 miles and get an oil change.
Right.
And the mechanic gives you a checkup.
Yes.
That's the same thing you need to do with your mental health.
Thank you.
You need to keep doing your mental health checkups. And that's a reason why I did not delay, with Jerry. And him and I probably had 4 sessions, and I got super fucking real with him.
Oh.
And he's like, oh, okay. Well, we're going there. And I said, yeah. Talking about all the work with you. He's like, man, I've heard wonderful things about, David. And he said, he's really sending me a lot of business. I said, yeah, he is.
True.
But, again, I mean, he had another full-time career.
Yeah.
And I'll let him tell that story when he comes on the show. But, and then he decided, I want to do this. I want to do mental health. And he went back and quit his job and, basically took a substantial pay cut to do what he's doing now. But it's really turned it around. I mean, Jerry I like his style. I like his way. Some people can't stand him. I mean, I've had people like, nah, I'll never fucking go back to that guy. It's like, okay, go find another therapist. There's a there in Vandalia,
Absolutely.
People it's a Catholic. Carla. Yeah. I got a colleague that sees her. I got another colleague that sees another therapist there, and they're just down there just kicking ass, and they got what, 10 or 15,
maybe even more than that.
Yeah,
between the two offices.
Yeah, they are super busy down there. But I just tell them go in there. And I give out. The purpose of this show is because I was getting calls for referrals for therapists, for people. And I was sending people that I cared very deeply. You saw my nephew. You saw one of my coworkers. I called you and I said, hey, can you get this guy in? And like what you did for Brian Gray for me, which is our 5th show in a row, we've talked about Brian Gray.
Yeah.
You're like, if it's a referral, then you would clear your book or find something to get them in. But mental health checkup, mental health, and I knew that I needed it. I knew that I could not go without a therapist. And that's the reason why, because my life is going really well right now.
Beautiful.
I need this, whether it's, I'm going to sit around and bitch about family life, or, one of my kids is being a fucking idiot, or, just those little things.
Right.
But you also got to deal with the traumas.
Right. And if you have that resource available and you're touching it on a regular basis, you can bring that trauma right in and get it taken care of instead of letting it sit inside you for
Don't let that motherfucker fester.
Exactly.
Because all it is a bed sore.
Yeah.
And the more you lay on it, the worse it gets and the more infected it gets. And, it's just, whereas if you got a good therapist and you have a good program, what works well for you? Now, we did EMDR.
Yeah.
I did some hypnotherapy with him.
Great.
And what was the other one? We did 3 different kinds.
Okay.
And each one was beneficial in its own way for the different
purposes.
Different purposes. Yeah, we did process work.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we just went in and we just talked.
Yeah.
And other time I said, okay, so next session we're going to do EMDR. I'm going to need 2 hours.
Right.
And we do 2 hours.
Right.
We did hypnotherapy. Damn, I wish I could. I'll think of it. Anyway, there's 3 different things that we did, and I was open to doing it all. And that's what you and like my other therapists are like. You are so engaging to do the work. Because a lot of people, again, if you're going to go in and you want to get this shit fixed, get it fixed.
Yes.
Not fixing it doesn't do you any good.
Right.
Not willing to do the work, you're just wasting money and time.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like lying to your therapist. There's people who don't lie to. You don't lie to your accountant, your attorney, or your therapist, because if you do, you're just wasting everybody's time.
Right.
You got to go in and be fucking real with them.
Right. Open yourself.
Yeah. Well, and it's like with this show, I vowed that when we do this, I'm going to put myself out there, and I've been getting calls as, hey, there's some things I didn't know about you, dude.
Exactly.
And I said, yeah, I'm going to be real on this show because the premise of it is, one of your colleagues had said, man, you and Mark really got a good flow going.
Yes.
And this is a lot like how our therapy sessions are.
Absolutely. Right.
We sit here and we talk, and some days I come in, I'm super emotional, and or if we're going to do some process work, when you come out of there, you feel better. It's kind of like me with the sacrament of confession.
Yes.
I like going and confessing to a priest I don't know because I really give a shit what my priest thinks about me. It's like with your therapist, you have to have that line.
There's an intimacy there, but there's also like an accountability thing,
right?
That you really value. Like you want this person, you want to be able to share this with this person and get the response to it.
Right.
Correct. They're going to be just as real with you as you're being with them.
Yes.
If that kind of thing you can rely on, that has power.
Yeah. Yeah, it absolutely does.
Yeah.
But there again, and that's like with us, as long as I was your client, we weren't hanging out.
Right.
But now we hang out and we do things together.
Right.
But like with Jerry, somehow him and I were Facebook friends.
Okay.
And he's like, hey, I need you to do me a favor. And I said, what's that? And he said, unfriend me.
Yeah.
Oh. Did I do something wrong? He's like, no, it's just, we need to have this. There needs to be a degree of separation there.
A boundary.
Yeah. And we can't do the work we need to do because you're not going to develop. And I didn't understand that until I listened to another podcast. Travis Howes was talking about, he gave a shit what his therapist thought about him, so he wasn't being honest and open. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
But, the shield within is to get people, number one, this is what therapy looks and feels like.
Right.
Number two, start fighting for yourself.
Yeah.
You know, I
Yeah.
needed to learn to fight for myself.
Exactly.
You know, I would stand there and, you know, run out neck fucking deep in a swamp to drag someone out of a fucking car.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't do that for me.
Yeah.
You know, I'll work a shit ton of fucking overtime. Number one, I'm a greedy bastard. Number two is, you know, to help a guy out. But then when they didn't do it for me, you know, I'm like, well, okay. But, you know, I wouldn't have done the things that I've done for other people for myself, I guess is what I'm saying.
Absolutely right.
And that's when we were talking about trying to come up with a theme or a name for this show is, and always talk about, and when we have FD Donnie on the show, or producer Donnie, as we like to call him on the Shield Within,
Right.
you know, we will do extraordinary things for people we have no fucking clue who they are.
Yep.
But when it comes to taking to self-care, we won't do it. And at Shield, we'll protect others, but we don't protect ourselves. And that's where you come up. And I really love the name of it, the Shield Within. We get to know it.
Right.
And then
Make
once you learn how to love yourself and help yourself, then it's really easy to go help someone else.
Yeah.
And that's what I had found through my therapy was that finding that self-love. But if you're outside the loop, if you're not maintaining, if you're not going in for your 5,000-mile checkup, that quickly turns. It quickly turns, especially with more trauma.
Yeah. I got one more thing I want to jump in. Do we have time?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
41 minutes.
Cool. All right.
That was quick.
I'm thinking, bro, you've been around, you've worked with a lot of different human beings.
Oh, yeah, I do.
And I also know that, and maybe others don't, that you know a lot of officers from all over the United States.
Mm-hmm. And Canada.
And Canada.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, when you meet with any colleagues, when you were still actively employed and so forth, what did you see in other officers that made you think, uh-oh, that one, they're in trouble?
Oh, you mean the signs?
Yeah.
No.
What did the coworkers show you that said, I'm fucked up and I need help?
Really over the top humor, sexualized humor, drinking. You know, some officers will go home and drink a 12-pack of beer a night just so they can sleep. Or, you know, they come in there kind of groggy. Dude, what's wrong? Oh, gee, I just couldn't sleep last night. They can't shut their mind off. You know, the cocktail that I came up with was 1 melatonin, 5 milligram melatonin, and 1 NyQuil gel cap.
Gotcha.
Okay, the melatonin shut the head off. The NyQuil
Shut your body down.
shut my body down. So I was able to get at least 4 hours worth of sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So, and when these guys are telling me, I'm home, you know, pounding beers and my wife's pissed off, and, you know, because the spouses are mad because these guys sit up and drink all night.
Right.
They're drinking because they're self-medicating. They are, you know, doing whatever because they're self-medicating. And it's like, bro, you ever think about getting in trauma? First thing, I ain't fucking crazy. I never said you're crazy, dude. You're fucking hurting. You're in pain.
Yeah.
You know, or, you know, random sporadic crying.
Oh, wow.
You know, it just, you know, it happens to me now because I'm evolving. I'm not getting re-traumatized and I'm healing.
Right.
But every cop I talk to that retired all says the same thing. It's going to take about 2 or 3 years. 2 or 3 years of what?
Yeah.
To stop dreaming cop. And some guys, it took them 10 years.
Oh, my.
Yeah, you're still behind the wheel of that patrol car. You're still hyper vigilant to shit. You know, it's like, and cops are so predictable. I love them. I'm not bad mouthing professional. I love my cops and I love the people I work with. But you know, we all act the same way. You got the same crappy haircut. You're wearing, you know, cargo pants with black boots, and you got your knife in. You're really easy to spot. You know, I must be softening myself because I've had like 3 homeless people come up to me. Hey man, you got some change? No, man, I got no change for you. But before they would, I would engage them. I would look them over, and they would just walk away from me.
Right.
So the drinking, some of them start bragging about, yeah, I got a wife and a girlfriend. you know, it is a whirlpool of destruction
Yeah.
that they get into. So, you know, you work all the time, you work sporadic hours, so you can see these other people, and this men and women both.
Right.
You know, if they got the wife and the girlfriend, the wife's at home trying to maintain the family, and, you know, they worry, you know, it's one thing's, but then they get them a girlfriend or either fucking a coworker. It happens. You know, you put men and women in a building together, especially like on the fireside. Hey, we got beds here. You know, it really comes together pretty quick.
Yeah.
But you know, like with cops, you're exposed to so many different people, and that was one thing that that changed me because I don't consider myself a good-looking man, and you know, I don't have really any game. And one of my colleagues said, "Man, I have no game, dude. I couldn't get laid in a woman's prison." But you know, women come on to you when you're in uniform and the flirtation, and it's like, hey, that's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's the old saying that this job's going to get you some pussy, but that pussy's going to get your badge, or the badge is going to get you the pee. But yeah,
Right.
And it's so true. But there again, you have to have those mental health checkups. You have to have good discipline, good self-discipline, boundaries, adhere to boundaries. But when I see other cops from across the and there's just been some really, really wonderful guys too. So not all cops are whores, and not everyone does it. But it's what we're talking about. This is a officer wellness show,
right?
And you know, what do cops do? You know, I know what my triggers were, but you know, I was never sitting down here pounding lots of alcohol to self-medicate. You know, the best thing about it is a lot of them are reaching out, but it's not as stigmatized as what it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago. You know,
Thank
if
God.
you went to fucking therapy, you know, when I first started seeing you, nobody knew I went to Sydney. Nobody. And if I thought I saw someone that was there, and I was like, you know, I had a friend that was really needing some help, and I'm like, you know, I know a guy. Well, how do you know him? Well, don't worry about how I know him, but I know a guy. He's really good. And, you know, we referred him up there, and he was walking out as I was walking in. He didn't know I was a client. He went, what do you... Oh, that's how you know David. And I said, yeah, can we just keep this between us? And he's like, absolutely, dude. I'm like, all right, cool.
So I'm thinking for those folks who are working as first responders, you look at your colleagues. I'm guessing a lot of you folks know who's in trouble in your department, maybe right now.
No, yeah.
You're listening to the stories of how much they're consuming alcohol, how much infidelity there is, how much drug use there is. They come to work kind of groggy, not real, you know, alert. Maybe their work attendance isn't fantastic. They seem to be kind of preoccupied, maybe a little bit down. Their humor's like way weird, too much. And it's like, are you allowed to walk up to that colleague of yours and say, you know, I'm concerned about you?
Well, you're absolutely allowed, but they'll deny it.
It'll just shut you down.
Oh, fuck yeah. You know, we're not going to show weakness. Hell no, you're not going to show weakness. And you know, what I always did was like, you know what, if you need someone to talk to, I know a guy. I don't offer my services because I haven't built any trust with them.
Mm-hmm.
Call me sometime, or I can text you a number.
Yes.
Yours.
Yes.
Jerry's. You know, it's okay to do that.
Right.
You know, we had a drowning here in the city that I worked. Very, very good friend of mine. I'm a friend of the family. You know, this kid just one of them things.
Yeah.
And we did a critical stress incident debriefing.
Right.
I was still your client.
Yes.
I had just seen. I went up that morning. We had the debriefing at 1. I was in your office at 10.
Yes.
And I think we did EMDR.
Mm-hmm.
We worked on that. And that was the day I came out of the closet for my mental health.
Gotcha.
So the gentleman from Sydney,
yes,
name escapes me, worked at Sydney PD.
Mike?
Yes. He was there. There was another associate there that worked with him that was with... state of Ohio, and they said, you know, Are you doing all right, Mark? Yeah. Matter of fact, I was at therapy at 10 o'clock this morning, and everyone had snapped around. What? You have a therapist and you're going to therapy? Yeah. I have been. I've been seeing this gentleman for a long time, and of course I told him who you were. Oh yeah, he's great. Yeah. But yeah, I suggest to him to let me know, and they will. Sometimes they eventually call,
Right.
and when they're ready, they do. But it's like what you've always said. You're just not in enough pain, bro.
Mm-hmm.
This is really simple to fix.
Yeah.
And it really is simple to fix.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to be willing to experience it again.
Right.
I was scared to death. Took me 18 months.
Yeah.
18 months of seeing you every other week.
Right.
So do the math.
Yeah.
I don't have that kind of money. I'm telling you. What's your alternative?
The money's going to leave your wallet. It just depends on which direction you put it in.
Yeah, either you give it to a lawyer for your divorce.
Yep. Keeping 3 mistresses. You think that shit's expensive?
I don't see how some of these guys do this. Woo.
Yeah.
But or that, or child support, or it's going to come out. It's like we were talking about my friend that's a pilot.
Yeah.
And in last episode, it's like, okay, so you got this great job, but you're fucking hurting, bro.
Pure and simple. That's right. We are, in the coming episodes, going to be sharing resources for those of you who are our first responders.
Oh, yes.
Working in departments where maybe you're not getting a lot of support from the department or from your supervisor directly, whatever. Maybe your colleagues think you're completely nuts if you even brought it up. But the point is, you're going to go home, and when you go to bed, you're going to have your own thoughts you're going to live with.
Oh, yeah.
And your own events and experiences that you're going to live with. And we'd like you to have a resource. So over coming episodes, we're going to be sharing resources that we've discovered over the last several years.
Yes.
International, national, local, regional, hotlines, books, individual resources, trauma therapy offices. We're going to try and have a newsletter that has a department every month that is doing something actively to support the mental health of their officers. And yes, that is not a fairy tale. That's real. There are departments doing that. And
there is.
And we know a few, and we're going to shine a light on them a little bit. So a lot of what we've done today and we've done over the last 5 episodes is to paint, hopefully, a picture that the resources are there. The work can be incredibly, dramatically good, and it can spread to the rest of your life.
Oh, absolutely.
And so we want you to be open and think about what Mark's gone through, which is awesome. His story is amazing, and the man that he is amazing. Each of you can be in the same shoes, too.
Oh, yeah.
So when we return with our next episode, we'll have more of this material for you.
Oh, yes.
And more resources
Looking forward
to share.
to it.
You bet, bro. Awesome.
Go outro us out.
Outro time. All right. May your days and nights find you strong and safe. May you take your place as your family's face, as you do the shit that we won't do, as you embrace the risk you must go through. May you grow in strength and heal and find your heart, your soul, and your mind. You look at your life and grin. You have a home. It's the shield within.